Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Brand new.
Hey, we're talking brand new Joe. Hey, we're on a brand new show. Deep dives, blow by blow. Spotting Uzis and crossbow. Like a buzzbow or pogo. Got ninjas like Don Shadow. Comics are how I spend my dough. We're coming to you in stereo. It's time for Talking Joe. With Mark and Tim, here we go.
Brand new.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, coming to you from the far reaches of the Energon universe once again. You are indeed listening to Talking Joe, the G.I. Joe comics podcast. If you're new to the show, you can find out all of the details about that show. What is this one? Over at the website, talkingjoe.co.uk. Now, today, we are talking about G.I. Joe issue number 13, released Wednesday, the 5th of November, 2025. It is the kickoff to the Dreadnok War. The synopsis said the Dreadnok War begins here when Cobra Commander is betrayed by one of his closest allies. He's targeted for revenge by the Dreadnoks. But in his darkest hour, the only one who can save Cobra Commander is Duke. The team up you never expected kicks off the biggest G.I. Joe story yet. One so action-packed that it will ship bi-weekly from the dream team of Joshua Williamson and Tom Reilly. But I will not be talking about this issue on my own. As always, I'll be joined by a real Energon Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, and listeners and viewers. How are you, Mark?
Not too bad, thank you, Tim. How about you?
I am very happy because my favorite G.I. Joe creative team of 2024-2025 is back.
They're back.
And the other one I did like, but I really, really like this one.
So you've got a lot of favorites here, Tim, because you've got a favorite team back. You've got an oversized issue, which is also a favorite thing, and you've got it shipping bi-weekly, which is an even more favoritist thing in the whole wide world, Tim. So you're just, you must be on peak G.I. Joe this week.
Yes, maybe not. I know we keep going back to April 2025 when there were 7 issues of G.I. Joe in 6 weeks. Few things can compare to that, but I had this joke last night that I was thinking of, like G.I. Joe's going bi-weekly. What is it, 1988? Because Marvel had books going bi-weekly in the summer of, was it 87 and 88 or 88 and 89? Like when McFarlane was drawing Amazing Spider-Man. And because G.I. Joe doesn't go bi-weekly, and so few comics do. And the stuff that happens when you're at whatever the right age is for you in collecting or in comics, like G.I. Joe went bi-weekly just before I got into comics. I didn't experience it firsthand, but I sort of noted it as I was, seeing the dates, the months on corner boxes, or looking at price guides, or seeing ads, in Marvel books, house ads. And ever since then, I've thought more books should go bi-weekly in the summer. That's what happens, right? Even though that only happened twice. So I'm very excited that it's happening now.
Very good.
Speaking of oversized issues, Transformers 24 and 25 were extra pages, if I'm remembering correctly. Neither had an increased cover price. This issue, G.I. Joe 13.
Oh, actually, 25. 25 was $4.99.
Okay. 24 then, I believe, had an extra 3 or 4 pages and was not a higher cover price. And here we have a 26-page issue, and I'm not counting the 2-page recap. There are 26 pages,
That's
right?
28, so, really, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I always say how much I want comics to be 22 pages because that's how long they were for a lot of my comics reading before, due to like shrinkflation, 5 or 10 years ago, they went to 20 pages. So I really appreciate this. And then for not being more expensive. And it occurred to me, wraparound cover, right? Not that Skybound would put an ad on the back cover, but wraparound cover, right? Which means you're probably paying Tom Reilly more money if you're Skybound. Bi-weekly, extra pages not for extra money. And it occurred to me, Skybound must be very confident in its position right now on G.I. Joe and the Energon universe, because you wouldn't spend this extra money, you wouldn't do this extra promotion. And right now I'm reading The Walking Dead Deluxe. I know we're still in preamble. And where Walking Dead Deluxe, a bi-weekly book, by the way, is in the reprinting of the original Walking Dead, is in that 12-part all-out war story. And in the letters pages, because the reprint book reprints the original letters, they keep making the point that every, 6 months or a year, they had to do something to get people to sort of pay attention to the book again, because it was now on issue 40, 50, 60, 100. And one way to do that would be to create a story arc. Because maybe you could get people to come back to the book who had left it or who had never tried it out, who I guess would try, issue 72, part 1 of 5. And a story like All Out War in The Walking Dead, which was 12 parts, which, changes the status quo and is very exciting. That's going to just get eyeballs. And you need to do something like that, says Skybound 10 plus years ago, to keep attention focused. And I hope Skybound doesn't feel like 13 issues into the new G.I. Joe, they need to do a big, not stunt, not event, but thing, a promotional thing. But at the same time, we all know how comics work nowadays, and comics are expensive and the economy, and, grumpy fans are always looking for a good reason to stop reading expensive comics. And so I think this is, in many good ways, a confident position from Skybound that they're really pushing G.I. Joe. And also, yes, it's a year in. They just had an excellent but second creative team for art and color on the book. And what can they do to sort of get people talking and excited? A 5-part story with a spicy title.
Yeah, and they're going big with the promotion, because there's a quality product to promote, regardless of everything. So it's a new arc, it's a potential jumping point. We'll probably talk about this, but they've got a recap that makes it super friendly for new readers. And yeah, Tom Reilly and Joshua Williamson have been out there promoting it. They've got a blank cover again for this one, which is always sort of interesting, because I think it's a bit of a mark of a particular issue that they're trying to promote and so on. So I think they are going a little bit extra on this one.
This issue does have more variant covers than the last issue. So it seems like at the beginning of each story arc, Skybound is going to push that a little bit. And then also in other Skybound books this month, there is a 3 or 4 page preview of this issue, right? That was in this month's Transformers. Was it also in last month's G.I. Joe? I didn't read it because I wanted this whole issue to be an exciting surprise when I got to it.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. In the back of in the back of 12, you did have a little preview.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Is this where you remind everyone that we're live and you say hello to people?
Yeah,
I was so into just talking about it already.
We're live, so you can join in the chat, say hello. We'll try and call out comments when we're in sort of, in between things, but sort of trying not to get taken too far off track. But hello to everyone listening and watching live. Checkpoint Alpha, Infinite Entertainment, Canadian Survivalist, and Carl's Collection. There, he makes the point that Joshua Williamson mentioned that this story was always going to happen early in the run, but wanted to make some character-focused stuff between the opening arc and this. And he mentions that in the letters page at the back, doesn't he? This story was one that was on his roadmap very, very early on, but he felt like he didn't want to go from one, explosive arc to another, and wanted to have a bit more of a quiet moment in between. So hence the gap between first arc and this one.
While we're talking about that sort of push in the title, I wanted to make the point. I wanted to make the point. Next month, Void Rivals begins a story arc called Quintesson War. And this week, G.I. Joe begins a story arc called Dreadnok War. And if you read comics and pay attention to comics, you know that certain words kind of belong to certain publishers. You know, DC tends to use the word crisis in important comics every 5 or 10 or 20 years. And sometimes the characters in continuity will even talk about it, like, oh, the last crisis event. And Marvel has somewhat claimed the word war or wars with Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2 and the other Secret Wars and Civil War. And not that Skybound can't use the word war, but it reminds me of part of the genesis of Marvel superheroes Secret Wars in the 80s in the first place, which is that when Kenner and Marvel were making the deal for this toy line based on Marvel characters, and it would have this comic book, Kenner made the request that the title somehow involve the words secret and war, or maybe it's wars, because Kenner's market research pointed to the fact that kids liked those words. And certainly we can look back just a few years with another Kenner product, Star War, I believe it's called, which had put that word very much into the public consciousness in a way that it hadn't been. You know, it's a popular series of movies and toy. But what I'm really getting at is when I start my own comic book and I need to get people back into it a year or 5 into it, I'm going to have a big stunt story called War Wars.
Oh no, it's a secret war crisis. Crisis of the Infinite Wars. And yeah, it's big, lots big goings on with comics, because outside of Skybound's immediate publishing as well, we've also got this last week Absolute Batman Annual #1 from Daniel Warren Johnson, one of the hottest books released, and a very exciting story. Love Daniel Warren Johnson. If you enjoyed his work on Transformers, you know, that's the thing that he's sort of done next, I guess, as a one.
Well,
he did
write and draw half of The Moon is Following Us, which is very good and no one's talking about. But yes, that crazy Absolute Batman annual.
Yeah, and a reminder as well that Disavowed from, let's get around, Devil's Due and Massive is also out. First issue out so far, but is coming out monthly. The Kickstarter was primarily a promotion for variant covers. It is also getting a mainstream release with, going to see the price point. Is it $3.99, $4.99? Anyway, it's
your local comic book store may have it and can order it. So don't feel like if you missed the Kickstarter, you're out of luck, or that you have to go to eBay or the Devil's Due or Massive website. If you have a local comic book store, ask them.
Yep. So, Josh Blaylock, Popman, you know, it's the return of the Devil's Due G.I. Joe architect, Josh Blaylock, back to a sort of G.I. Joe adjacent title with a fun literal title, The Disavowed. So make sure that one is on your pull list.
The object, if you're listening to this episode, that Mark was just holding is the Michael Golden cover on issue #1, which is also the cover that I bought. Mm-hmm. And it will go in my Michael Golden box.
And Andrea Milana has shared his cover art and process for G.I. Joe #12 with Shooter up in a tree. So that's always fun to see. And talking about issue #12, there was a couple of interesting things that came out after that. Craig on the Patreon suggested that possibly there was this plot point where Darklon was wanting Shooter to assassinate someone for him. You thought, Tim, that it was probably Hawk, but maybe it might have even been Destro, because after all, he's burnt his face off and given him this iron mask. Maybe Darklon could want revenge on Destro. That would be an interesting direction to go in. And I was talking to Greg Augustin about this point of the backstory about Shooter, the Olympics, and her father. And we checked the file cards, and there wasn't actually a reference to it, but there was a reference to it in his command files from After Action Report, of which the file card page has been posted online. So Greg thought that he wouldn't have plucked it out of anywhere. So that idea must have been out there somewhere. Maybe it was a Hama interview or something like that, but it doesn't appear to be in the mainstream. And we wondered that possibly the source that Joshua Williamson might have used for his inspiration could have been the command files card description of Shooter's backstory. So it could have been a little bit of a Rubos, snake eating its own tail there, with Greg wondering what the source was, and maybe it was him.
Maybe we'll have to wait until after this arc for some more Night Force action and a little more development on that character backstory.
So
to find out
what else is happening, we've got over at Modern Mythology. Modern Mythology comic art dealer who represents Tom Reilly. They are currently having a sale. G.I. Joe pages are 20% off, and Duke pages are 30% off for the entire month of November. Use discount codes Jovember20 and Jovember30. Just to remind that those pages are pretty glorious. So yeah, head on over to Modern Mythology. Still a whole bunch of cool stories, story pages. Look at this one. Here we go. Tom Reilly, G.I. Joe page from number 3. If you want Cobra Commander ripping off a Cobra Last scientist's face, that will set you back $375 minus 20% discount. Yeah, there's a lot of great pages still there, and I must confess that this sale did tip me over the edge to actually go and order a page myself. So that's Modern Mythology comic art, and Carl, who is in the chat, has done some great coverage of that sale, and also the pages that he's been buying from Modern Mythology. He says, please go buy pages so I'm not tempted as much as I currently am. I was a little bit of that mindset as well. It was like, hope some people buy these pages, because otherwise I might just have to go and do it myself.
Maybe with that crazy announcement about a TV show or a streaming series, whatever we call it now, an animated series for Energon Universe. Maybe if these pages don't sell, there'll be even that much more. Maybe the prices will go up in 3 years when there's a Void Rivals Transformers G.I. Joe cartoon on.
I think it sounds like if you're in that mentality, I think it would be something to take a bet on. What else is happening this time next week? So we're streaming on Saturday, the 8th of November. But this time next week, Tim, you will be in Iowa at a great convention happening there, Assembly Required, with the likes of Larry Hama, Ron Rudat, Ron Wagner, and Phil Hester, artist of the Silent Missions Beachhead one-shot. And you're going to be moderating a silent panel, entirely silent.
Yes. I will be at the front of the room with Hama, Wagner, and Hester, and we're just going to pantomime questions and answers about writing and drawing comics and visual storytelling. I should say, I hope everyone gets to Iowa efficiently with the news this week of the FAA or the FTA as having all the airlines diminish flights by 10% because of the government shutdown and the strain on the air traffic controllers. So if you're driving to AR, cool.
And if you're flying,
like me, oh boy, hope it's okay. Yes, collar tug.
Very good.
One last thing about assembly required. If you Google it, sometimes it's a little confusing because the website is codenameiowa.com. And that's the sort of organization, that's two people, that puts together the convention. The convention itself is called Assembly Required, but that's not the website.
Cool. So I think at this point in the show, we take a look around the Energon universe.
All around the skybound world, are you looking for some G.I. Joe? There's Autobots and Decepticons and creatures from the sacred ring. All we need is Energon, sweet Energon. There'll be Energon everywhere. There'll be robots swinging, aliens killing, and Decepticons in the streets. Yeah!
Very good. So first up, also out just this week gone, November the 5th, was G.I. Joe Volume 2, Blood's Revenge, which collects the last arc. Issues 7 through 12. And as Carl pointed out in a recent video that he made on his website, on his YouTube channel, Carl's Collection, there's no easier time than to sort of jump in and collect Energon Universe, because, Tim, here, I went and bought the hardcover Deluxe Codename G.I. Joe Book 1 and 2. And
left it in the shrink wrap?
Well, it only arrived a couple of days ago, and I have read it multiple times, but I will dig into it. So there's Codename G.I. Joe Book 1 and 2 Deluxe hardcovers, which collect Duke, Cobra Commander, and Book 2 Scarlet Destro. And then after you've read that, you can buy 2 trade paperbacks, G.I. Joe Volume 1 and G.I. Joe Volume 2, which takes you all the way up to number 12. And then you can jump right in with issue 13 as a monthly read. So it really is super easy to sort of get up to speed with G.I. Joe in the Energon universe. I'm
looking at that third sentence in the description of this G.I. Joe Volume 2 Blood's Revenge catalog page, where it says, nothing will be the same. And that's true. Comic books often promise, it's like, this is the X-Men crossover that will really change the X-Men, says a slightly jaded X-Men fan. And things really are different for G.I. Joe after issues 6 through 12.
Yeah, and for Major Blood's optometrist, their world has changed dramatically. So Void Rivals issue 24 was out November the 5th, was it as well? Good grief. So another sort of delve into the world of Void Rivals, and a variant cover from Danny with Pythona on there, because we do have more Pythona there sort of interacting with Wheelie and looking to get involved in all things Quintesson as part of the Quintesson War, which I believe kicks off next month.
Yep.
So, and Transformers, we talked about Transformers issue 25 in the last one of these shows. Issue 26 will be out November the 12th. And so look for more Flag, potentially, General Flag, who, here's a theory, as to why maybe he's looking or acting very differently between how he appeared in issue 25 versus how we've seen him before. Could Flag...
It's Zartan.
Could Flag be Zartan?
Oh, you were going
to... So yeah, look for more Flag, possibly more Miles Mayhem.
Since we were talking about this in a previous Energon-focused episode, and I was about to write a long letter to the Transformers Letters page, saying how much I like Dan Mora's artwork, and I hope he'll stick around without missing a bunch of issues after this first arc of 6 issues, because he can draw 2 books a month, and he's so focused at DC, and he does so many covers for DC and I think Boom. But even though he's drawing 2 or sort of even 3 books a month, there's a lot of hopscotching. So he'll like draw some issues of Superman and then not some issues of Superman, and he'll draw a big DC event and then like miss a few issues of Justice League. It was confirmed this week that Dan Mora is only drawing 1 arc of Transformers. So that saved me the trouble of writing this very long letter that I've been composing in my head for 3 months since they announced Dan Mora. Let the speculation begin on who will draw Transformers starting around issue 30, and possibly let the disappointment begin when it's someone who's very, very good, but not very, very, very good like Dan Mora. No. Seriously, I trust that Skybound will find someone great. Maybe it's someone who's already drawn in the Energon universe. Maybe it's someone we never expected. Maybe it's someone we've never heard of. But I do think Skybound does a very good job of picking artists. Speaking of, Andre Bressan, artist of the Destro miniseries, will be drawing this next arc of Void Rivals, the Quintesson War, and the artist of the just wrapped up Void Rivals arc, Connor Hughes, is taking a break and then leapfrogging to the following arc on Void Rivals. We should probably talk about G.I. Joe 13 now.
We should, but just you and I, maybe we just touch on this small tidbit of news that isn't at all significant, which is that Deadline created this article all about the Energon universe potentially becoming a cartoon or an animated production. So very exciting, obviously. They say that Robert Kirkman's Skybound Entertainment has teamed with Hasbro to produce Energon Universe, an adult animated series based on the comics of the same name, created by Kirkman and published by Skybound. Joe Henderson, Lucifer, is attached. Joe Henderson isn't Lucifer. He's worked on this TV show called Lucifer. He is attached to write the adaptation and serve as showrunner on the series, an epic crossover of G.I. Joe, Transformers and Void Rivals mythology, which is expected to be taken out to buyers shortly. So Chris McLeod and I talked about this at some length this time last week on the Full Force Weekly. It's big news. It's still early days, so we're not going to see anything for a little while. If you want to see the kind of thing to expect, look to the Invincible cartoon, I think, in terms of, how many episodes there might be in a season, maybe 8, the kind of production values, that kind of thing. But yeah, very exciting to see, and I look forward to finding out more as we get it. Tim, what was your thought?
I have 5 or 6 quick thoughts. Interesting title. It does not, the words Transformers or G.I. Joe are not in that title. So in some ways it's the perfect title because it's much bigger than those things. And in other ways it's a risky title because people don't know what Energon is, and Something Universe is so expansive that it might not hook you. I like the title. Number 2, which is expected to be taken out to buyers shortly, right? This is an announcement of a deal that Skybound and Hasbro are going to try and sell this show. There is no show, right? There's no budget. There's no date. There's no production pipeline. There's no number of episodes. There's no running time. There's no whatever it is, 20 million, 60 million, 80 million, going from a network or a streamer to Skybound to make a show yet. And, we could hope it's Amazon or HBO Max or, Disney Plus. I'm sure it's not going to be Disney Plus. But that has not happened yet. And in terms of a pitch of shopping this around, I assume there's like a little bit of new artwork, in some like PDF, some deck, some slideshow. But probably just a lot of artwork from the comics already generated. And like maybe a Bible, maybe a 5, 10, 20 page text document that sort of outlines what all this is. And then it's adult animated, right? Mm-hmm. So there have been all these Transformers cartoons in the last 10 years, which are either aimed for really little kids, or, like 12 and up, like the CG Cybertron trilogy on Netflix. And for anyone who's read Invincible for more than a year, that it starts out as this like PG-13 comic, and then it gets really, really bloody. And I assume the show did the same surprise. And this is not to say that Energon Universe, the animated series, will be, there'll be the S word and the F word with lots and lots of blood. But this is not a quote all ages series or like a teen series. And these comics are T for teen. So there's some stretch room there for how, serious or violent it gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say, look to the comics for the inspiration there in terms of like some of the horror that we saw in Cobra Commander and the torture scene, some of the deaths of Transformers or deaths of G.I. Joes. So, there's some more adult themes there. Should we?
One last thing I'll say is, as a comic book store owner who sells Energon Universe issues and graphic novels, I do look forward to a day, 2-3 years from now, when people are coming into the store the way that they have with other comics that have become shows and movies, and said, we sell a lot more Invincible than we used to, and people will point to it and say, "Oh, that I was telling you about this show that I watch," or "I really like the show and I want to, read the comic," or "Oh, I heard about the show, but I like comics."
Yeah, get sort of Transformers squishing little humans with their hands as well, which is something that we might revisit in this particular episode as we discuss G.I. Joe issue number 13. So this was brought to us from the creative team of writer Joshua Williamson, artist Tom Reilly, colorist Jordie Bellaire, letterer Russ Wooton, editor Ben Abernethy, publication design Andres Juarez, and production Ashby, Florence. So let's get on to the next section, Tim, where we look at those things, what they stick on the front covers of these books.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Cover A is drawn and colored by Tom Reilly. It is a wraparound cover on the right half. The front cover, Duke and Cobra Commander are getting away in a red Jeep. Interestingly, Cobra Commander is holding Destro's rifle. Duke's rifle, right? So there's a little trading going on here. And I guess Duke's holding his pistol. Behind them is a grifter from the Wildstorm universe on a motorcycle. No, I'm just kidding. Behind them is a blonde Dreadnok with a red face mask and goggles. There's a beautiful blue sky behind them. They're all kicking up dust. Behind and almost catching up with and on the side of this red Jeep making a getaway are Dreadnoks in a variety of Mad Max style vehicles. They're not sort of fantastical post-apocalyptic vehicles, but they are normal vehicles that have been slightly rebuilt and souped up with, like dune buggy tires and gun emplacements on them. There's a big explosion happening all the way on the far left. A couple of motorcycles are sort of jumping up in the air. Notably, we see the Dreadnok cycle, which, remind me, Mark, that's just what it's called, right? It didn't have another word, right? It wasn't like everyone calls Zartan's swamp skiff the Chameleon. It's got a name. And what was the helicopter? What was the Dreadnok's helicopter called?
The Swamp Masher, is it? Or Swamp Fire?
No, the Swamp Masher.
Swamp Fire.
Thank you. Swamp Masher is the vehicle with the 75,000 purple wheels. That's an exaggeration. There are only 63 purple wheels on the Swamp Masher. The Dreadnok cycle is just called the Dreadnok cycle, and it always looked a little bit like they had taken a couple things apart and put them back together as this exaggerated sort of like dune buggy motorcycle. And it feels very much at home now with these other cars and trucks that have been souped up with giant tires. We see Xandar and Zorana and Ripper and none of the other characters in the background do we recognize as sort of marquee or action figure Dreadnoks. But this is a very exciting cover. I really love the metallic shine on the hood of this Jeep. I love the little bit of exaggeration that Tom Reilly has done in drawing the Jeep as it's sort of stretching out a little bit toward us. There's a lot of speed here. And the texture of the sand looks great. The explosion. Anyway, okay. I love it.
We got a cover toy recreation of this particular cover by Wreckship 85, which is a lot of fun and well done on being able to capture that particular weapon as well. So recreated with a vamp and a ferret and a ram cycle in the background. Nice job there. A lot of fun. Well done. Cover B.
All right, help me out with the creators on this. We don't have a cover key on this issue.
This is Mark Spears on cover B.
Cover B is painted. It's Mark Spears. Cobra Commander is standing in front of his snake throne, or maybe just a giant sort of snake. I actually don't even see a chair. He's looking down at us with his arms akimbo, and his foot is up on something. It's not a person. It's a step or a box.
It's the same color as the snake.
Behind him.
Yeah.
It's the same color as the snake. So behind him are 3 bats. They have red sort of center parts of their faces, not silver, which to me points a little bit more towards the TV cartoon. Because the action figure and the comic book in the 80s, they had the silver. What's the color for the classified action figures, Mark?
They've done a few. The main one is just a silver faceplate, but I think they have done a variant with a red one. Okay.
Red background here. Blue it's really dominant because of there's so much blue in the bats and in Cobra Commander's uniform. Actually, can you go back a slide to the Tom Reilly cover? Because I'm realizing now that I believe Tom Reilly has redesigned Cobra Commander's uniform
he has
for
indeed.
This story arc.
Yeah.
So both for this cover A and then also for all the pages inside, it's still Cobra Commander in blue with some red stripes and some black details. It's looking less like Napoleon's jacket and more like
something else.
a different formal military uniform. It's not a style or a cut that I have a word for.
Yeah.
And here on the B cover, Mark Spears.
Yeah, the Mark Spears is sort of doing this original Tom Reilly design that was in his first arc. But yeah, interestingly, Tom Reilly has redesigned Cobra Commander to have this sort of, to include a cloak, which is the obvious one, but also sort of this black sort of central piece as well. So yeah, I would like to ask Tom kind of what drove him to redesign Cobra Commander quite so early on. But potentially, I'm thinking that he's sort of just getting more confident and slightly more even more ostentatious as he's going along. But
Tom Reilly or Cobra Commander?
Both of them. I'm sure Tom's gone insane with power.
When I met Tom Reilly, he struck me as a really cocky bastard. No, I'm kidding. Cover C
is Ben Oliver.
Ben Oliver. This is a portrait of Ripper. It's just his head and his shoulders. There's not much of a background. It's a bit of a dull blue with some sort of sketchy shadow stuff. Maybe he's standing in front of a wall, sort of a concrete wall. It's not clear if he's inside or outside, but it sort of doesn't really matter. His mouth is open and he's yelling at us. He's wearing his shades. He had the little bit of costume that we can see, to me says he's wearing his sort of Mercer Cobra Viper-esque costume, not his, yellow shirt or green shirt Dreadnok 1984 costume. He's missing a tooth, which is a visual cue to a page within this very issue.
Oh, yeah.
And this will be a series of C covers, A cover, B cover, C cover, for this 5-part arc, where for the other 4, Ben Oliver will be drawing similar portraits, almost mugshot photos, but there's no lineup, height marks behind them. And they're sort of showing off their attitude with their grimaces and their expressions. So maybe that's not the right word, but it's a straight on sort of neutral lighting and color. Anyway, they don't connect, but there will be 4 more in this style.
Yeah, the Ripper design for Tom Reilly that he introduced with issue number 1 of G.I. Joe in that sort of Cobra Viper style does have these sort of red sort of shoulder pieces, and that is what we can see, I guess, in that particular mug shots. He's got these sort of red kind of shoulder elements coming over, and the sort of grey chest plate. So yeah, it's definitely that sort of Cobra Viper type inspired look.
Okay, I don't want to say mugshot. I want to say like fashion entertainment magazine cover. You know, like you have a really well-known photographer and you've got 5 Dreadnoks. It's like, all right, we're going to do 5 covers for our like national magazine, and I want you to like smile for the camera and like and yell the word
"Give me some
boy"
attitude, yeah, baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I sometimes give the work of Ben Oliver a hard time when I see it in my comic book store, because I really like his drawings, but in his sequential pages, in his interiors, he doesn't draw a lot of backgrounds. And that's Batwing in like 2011. That's the backups he did after Jay Lee on that Batman Superman team up book. That's Ultimate X-Men even before that. On covers like this, totally okay.
Very good.
And his figures and faces are always great. Cover D is Jesus Merino and
Adriano Lucas. This is the cover D, 1 in 25.
Okay, so was cover C was the Ben Oliver one? Was that 1 in? No. There are no 1 in 10 covers.
Yeah,
this time around
doesn't seem to be.
Yes, Skybound is adjusting its ratio for variants. There have been a bunch of 1 in 10 covers. For this arc, there seem not to be any. So the lowest tier of, quote, rare covers is 1 in 25. This is Buzzer. He's now in his recognizable, action figure costume. He's got his yellow button-up shirt with no sleeves, and his not blue jeans, but gray pants and sort of metalish attitude biker boots. He's got a pistol. There's this explosion behind him. So this is another cover that reminds us of the 1980s G.I. Joe toy package artwork. And then notably, instead of a right hand holding a chainsaw, his right hand is a chainsaw, which probably puts us all in mind of Army of Darkness, the 3rd movie in the Evil Dead series, which I don't know if that invented that visual, but it certainly popularized it. Did he lose his hand back in the Cobra Commander miniseries?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I think I've got an image that shows that we can have a look at in a bit.
Okay, good. All right. And then is this the 1 in 50?
1 in 50 cover E is Kendrick Kunkka Lim with Zorana.
Zorana is on a motorcycle. It has 3 headlights. They're on and they're pink. There's a skull on top of the center headlight. The bit of tire that we see has spikes in it. She's holding a shotgun over her shoulder. She's not riding. She's not speeding along. She's parked. And so the steering column is sort of turned, and the motorcycle is leaning just a bit as if it's maybe also on its kickstand, or she's, sort of holding it up. So this is definitely like a moment of rest before she takes off. There's no distinct background. It's all sort of out of focus smoke. Maybe she's on a city street or in an alley. There's a couple tiny glints of light, which might suggest buildings in the distance, but she's just outside, somewhere. It's not a parking garage. The logo here, this is fun, is magenta, pink magenta.
I was going to say, you can't help but see a cover like this, and think of the Purple Rain poster from Prince, which incidentally has also been homaged in the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow book from IDW, and also with a Storm Shadow variant, which I think was from I think that was from the Snake Eyes Dead Game miniseries. And it's also not the first front cover with Zorana on a motorbike, because from G.I. Joe number 10 from Devil's Due, when it was actually being published by Image back in that would be 2002-ish. Yeah. Was also a cover, but very different kind of position on the bike.
My favorite take on the Prince Purple Rain movie poster is the artist Cliff Chang drew Batgirl on the 60s TV Batgirl motorcycle in that same environment and pose, and was selling it as a convention print for many years. And I don't know if it ever became a variant cover. And then Mark, are there? So there are even more regular covers.
Yep, we've got a cover F, which is a 1 in 100 foil by Ludo Lullaby of Destro. Let's keep on going at pace, perhaps.
Sure. Destro is standing. He's big and exaggerated in his proportions. There's sort of vague fire and smoke around him, and two bats that are firing lasers, flamethrowers,
something. We've then got a blank cover, which, as I say, is often used as in sort of one of these milestone issues where there be a lot of promotion.
That the blank cover is open to order. It's not a tiered ratio. And then we have this. Is this Andrea Milana?
Yeah, Andrea Milana cover I, which I think is a slightly higher price point. It's $4.99, and this is, they call a mask variant. So we've seen a couple of these with Beachhead and Cobra Commander.
So this is wraparound, and so the sort of white part with the sort of burst, that's the like cardstock cover, and then as a separate cutout layer on top of that is this mask that acts as sort of a second half cover that sort of folds on top of it.
Then we have got the cover H, die cut cover. This is called by Eric Canetti, which features a sort of like a metallic kind of wall with 4 bullet holes in it, and through which the Dreadnok faces are poking through. In person, it's a little bit more of a 3D looking effect. And as you sort of turn over that outer cover, there is an inner image of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Dreadnoks sort of crouched over the viewer. Quite a cool image and a cool effect there.
They're all in sort of red, orange, magenta tones, and their background is a hazy blue. Eric Canetti seemed to be drawing one Energon Universe cover a month off and on for the last year or so. I really want Skybound to somehow lasso him into drawing a full issue.
And this is on the back of him doing a die cut cover for Transformers number 25, which had these sort of similar sort of effects of sort of a gap in the front cover being created for the under image to be shown. And this month, I think we've just got one retailer exclusive, which is from 616 Comics, which is Bjorn Barron's Cobra Commander, available in 2 versions, one of which is foil. It's Cobra Commander in his sort of Napoleonic type uniform, holding up a burning skull.
Since Bjorn Barron's has drawn covers for Ghost Rider, I don't look at this as a burning skull. I look at this as a Skybound Marvel crossover.
And given that he does do, uses sort of like 3D modeling as part of his cover creation process, it's entirely possible that he's been able to recycle his Ghost Rider model to create this effect. So good value for money there.
if we back up, maybe it turns out that Cobra Commander isn't standing but sitting on a hell cycle.
A hell cycle, yeah. Very cool. So with us looking at the covers complete, let's turn to the inside of the story with Spoilers very much ahead from this point onwards. If you haven't read the issue and you want to stay spoiler-free, now is the time to duck out and come back when you have read it. But we are going in hard with a plot breakdown.
Plot breakdown.
Cobra's Energon supplies are running low. Cobra Commander traces a deposit and decides he will visit himself, supported by Ripper and a platoon of Cobras. Destro speaks with Ripper, planting the seed that it would be a pity if something were to happen to the Commander, the man that wiped out his Dreadnok pals. Elsewhere, Duke is visiting the grave of his old friend Tyler Frost, killed by Starscream. He gets a call from Clutch about a weird Energon signal that he has found in the Chihuahuan desert. Taking a jeep out to investigate, Duke spots Cobra digging, but his radio signal is blocked. Cobra dig out a device that is not Energon. The commander realizes it is a trap as they come under attack, as the Cobra troops and vehicles are wiped out. Ripper surprises the commander, destroying his mechanical hand. No one is coming to save him from Ripper. No one apart from Duke, that is, who takes down Ripper and then handcuffs himself to the commander to take him in. But Ripper didn't come alone. The Dreadnoks are on the way to take revenge on the commander. Then, back at the Cobra base, Destro announces that the commander has taken a leave of absence and Cobra is now under his command.
I love this issue, and it's a great opening chapter to a story. Okay, for the last 6 issues, we've barely checked in with Duke. And Duke does get to mention the giant robots, right? And we're G.I. Joe's still not going to really be dealing with them. They've got their own book, and some of them are in space, dealing with space stuff.
Because in the last issue, number 12, featuring Shooter, we did have a bit of a prologue sequence with Duke, if you'll remember, where he spoke to Hawk, and he says, I need to go to Frostgrave, get a reminder of why we are doing this. The last few weeks, we've been so focused on Cobra that I worry we're not exploring the robots and their impact here. So it's directly following on from that seed that was planted that Duke would go and visit the grave of his friend Frost, who was killed by Starscream, and set the whole plot in motion.
Have we known Frost's first name before?
Ooh.
His name is Tyler Frost. I feel like that's new, and I think this is just an NPC, a non-player character who served as a device. This is someone who was in the second issue of Transformers who had to die so that Duke would have this trauma and would meet Starscream. And this is not some deep cut G.I. Joe reference. This is not, setting up something, like Tyler Frost's brother isn't going to found Mask, and be like Matt Tracker's best friend. This is just someone who's not in the series anymore. But because continuity is the way that it is, and comics loop back on each other, I find myself sort of distracted. Like, should I really know more about Tyler Frost? Is this a name I should be Googling? Did we know his first name? Duke called him Frosty. Was Frosty his code name? The way that Duke is a code name? So is Frosty a Proto Joe? Or is it just his nickname or his call sign? Like Top Gun Maverick or Goose. That is not a very productive cycle of thought. That's just sort of going down a road. All right, let me pull out my notes. Okay, on page 3, I am struck by Cobra Commander's hologram of Earth, this 3D model, floating model of a planet, and we see some recognizable contents, and there are little crosshairs over it. And he says, "Call our allies. They will go to these different locations on Earth, find the raw energon, and report back to us," right? And by allies, Mercer, Blood, Chameleon, the twins. And I thought, this is one of those moments where the comic book recalls the cartoon. And I don't know that this is a direct callback, but the first 3 G.I. Joe animated miniseries in 83 and 84 and 85 these 5-parters all involve teams of Joes and Cobras going around the world looking for MacGuffins. And that's what's happening here. And I don't know that this 5-part comic book story is going to feel like a 5-part animated miniseries in pacing or in tone, but just that sort of sentence of plot reminds me of that establishing status quo of all G.I. Joe animation. And I like that.
Yeah, and it's something that they've sort of played a little bit within the series before about sort of, dividing up the teams and going to do particular things. But yeah, it was sort of a bit of a rug pull to some degree, because it's like, here's this familiar conceit of you've got Energon dotted around the world. We're going to divide up the teams with Mercer, Blood, Chameleon, the twins. They're going to go to the different locations on Earth. They're going to find the raw materials, come back, and in each place they're going to encounter a different Joe team. But then they go, oh, there's this other one. We'll just go and see that one instead, and they just sort of like do the rug pull, and we're sort of pointed in one direction, and then
yes,
within a panel, it's like, okay, we're not actually going to do that, but it's a fun kind of playing with the ideas of the conceits that you normally see in the animated series.
And a bit of that rug pull is that in the animated series, Cobra Commander tends not to go on those missions. He tends to stay back at headquarters. I don't have a list of all the missions in those first 15 episodes in front of me, but I feel like, that's where you spotlight Blood and the Dreadnoks and Baroness.
So yeah, should we circle the first few pages a little bit, because we're in this scene with Cobra Commander, and Co. at the Cobra base. We have this sad / slightly comical scene, tragic comedy of Dr. Vandermeer, who, let's not forget, is a character from the who created the mass device in the cartoon. So it's a little bit of a recap of what he's accomplished. He's saying, we've run out of Energon. I've known use to you. I hope that you will finally put me out of my misery. I just want to die. Which is, not too far away from where he was at in the Cobra Commander miniseries when he was being held captive by the Dreadnoks. He's had a hard lot. And yeah, Cobra Commander is toying with him like a cat would a little mouse, and sort of is just sort of taking glee, I guess, to some degree in terms of how he's interacting with Dr. Vandermeer.
I want to point out the drawing of Dr. Vandermeer on the bottom of this first page by Tom Reilly is so great. And I have looked at the Dr. Vandermeer model sheet from the original animated miniseries, and that's a Russ Heath drawing, because he was the character designer on the animated G.I. Joe. And it's really subtle here, but Tom Reilly is absolutely capturing how Heath drew Vandermeer's eye and mustache. And I don't think Tom Reilly is at all drawing like Joe Kubert, but I see a little bit of Joe Kubert in this face. I think if you're an action or war artist in American comics, you might sort of eventually end up drawing a little bit, for a bit of a page like Joe Kubert. But I sort of forgot about Dr. Vandermeer, and I looked at this page and I thought, that looks just like the Dr. Vandermeer miniseries model sheet for Russ Heath. Oh, right, that's Dr. Vandermeer. And not just like it's an old scientist guy with glasses and a mustache, but like, no, the eyes and the mustache very specifically. I really like Andrea Milana's art in the previous issues. I think Lee Lowridge is a very fine color artist. Jordie Bellaire's colors, particularly in combination with Tom Reilly's art. And Tom Reilly knows so well when to draw more detail and mostly when to draw less detail. And there's so much satisfying negative space, open areas on faces or material or costumes. Tom Reilly is not, covering every panel, every inch with, details and lines and textures. And I just look at this page and I see a really strong sense of design, these 3 verticals in the first 3 panels, the blue, the orange, the blue, the orange, the sort of repeating opposite colors, the Cobra symbol peeking out, whatever clothing Cobra Commander has given Vandermeer to wear, it's It's horrible. It's insulting, right? He's a prisoner. He gets a white lab coat, but he has to wear a Cobra, shirt or armor. And the sort of visual of those first 3 panels is so striking because you could just have 3 panels of Cobra Commander sitting there, and like the camera slowly closes in on him as he does a little body language, puts his hand up or points or is, holding a scepter or something. But we hold for the reveal, right? You turn the page and you get this, man, that's going to be a $400 original art page at, is it modernmythologycomics.com? And I already own a Tom Reilly original, so I think I'm going to stop. But, Carl's collection says in the comments, that's such an underrated skill, knowing what knots to draw, right? And Tom Reilly's art is very much about design, about shapes, dominant shapes in sort of character and props and blocking and composition. All right, so if you go back to that first page, I don't know if this is probably in Williamson's script, but in the voiceover, in the narration, Cobra Commander is describing things. And like, look at that second panel, right? Vandermeer is saying this. It's fuel your weapons of war. And what does Tom Reilly draw? This very striking, symmetrical sort of design, this like pattern of 2 HISS tanks, but you just see like the smallest amount of them so that you go, well, that's a HISS tank. And then 5 bats, but not all of them, just their heads, their shoulders, and their chests. But they're not sort of lined up like, soldiers in a warehouse. But then you have these 5 rifles, and it's the Energon powered laser rifles, but they're floating in space, like it's a video game and you get to select your weapon. And then on the bottom, these 3, I forget what those are, Energon bombs or grenades or something with Cobra logos. This is such a cool, and I say this complimentary, weird decision to draw this, like, this pattern. This panel becomes like symbols. This is not a physical location. There's no space down the hallway where those HISS tanks are behind those bats with those floating rifles. And then, in the first and third panel, Reilly gets to visually refer to the diluted Energon and then the sort of the pure Energon. And then the page ends up being sort of symmetrical because, Vandermeer is centered in the bottom and there's a triangle of light behind him as if he's like in a spotlight. It's just all very handsome and satisfying, and like Reilly is working really hard, like drawing those rifles in perspective, drawing all the details on the bat chest plates is not easy. But Reilly's also choosing not to draw a lot. And just you had that page from the last issue up a moment ago, the conversation between Hawk and Duke. And I really like the art in that issue, but that's a really different take with a lot more, like lines on faces for, cheekbones and stuff. What else would you like to say about this opening scene?
I was going to say we've got this nice element of just calling back with that interaction with Destro and Ripper, and he's planting that really not too subtle kind of seed with Ripper that, it would be a shame if something were to happen to Cobra Commander, wouldn't it?
We're on page 5 right now.
It would be a pity if anything would happen to our dear commander. And that sort of has a nice callback there to Ripper's previous interaction, because let's not forget he's somewhat of a reluctant Cobra. Ripper was originally part of the Dreadnok gang that essentially Cobra Commander took apart. So back in Cobra Commander, I think it's issue 4, 3 and 4, we sort of got the reveal of Nemesis coming to his Cobra Commander's rescue, and Cobra Commander looking on with that smile painted on his mask in blood as Nemesis took apart the Dreadnoks, and leaving basically just Torch, Ripper, Buzzer, Zorana, Xandar from that group of swamp-dwelling Dreadnoks. And what's going to say is, yes, that as they make their getaway, you can see from this issue that this previous Cobra Commander issue that Buzzer was quite badly injured by Nemesis, but the four of them sort of made their getaway, and they had this scene where Ripper essentially was, Cobra Commander was sort of bending over the top of him here, sort of, and there's the element of Ripper being quite horrified by him, and then in this current issue, there's very much a playback of that scene as Ripper remembers that encounter. I'm just comparing the dialogue. Actually, his original dialogue from Cobra Commander was, "Damn, your face looks like a bowl of puke, brother. What the hell?" And here it's, "What's wrong with your face?"
If you need to crunch it down to one word balloon, that might be the decision you make. What's wrong with your face?
Yep.
Can you go back to the bottom panel of page 3? Yeah, really nice bit of acting where Destro says, "Then Ripper and I will go to that location, Commander." Mm-hmm. And Ripper is looking at Destro with his eyebrow cocked, but there's not as much space to show that because he's wearing his giant sunglasses. And Reilly gets it. Reilly totally sells this moment, or if it's not quite in the script, adds it. Let's say enhances it. Ripper is surprised that Destro is volunteering this. Ripper's not looking at Cobra Commander. Ripper's looking at Destro, and that's a subtle difference, and I love it because the Dreadnoks can often be one-note characters. They're kind of dumb and they're destructive and they laugh at things. And I like these moments where we get some complexity, and this page is just bathed in this pink. Man, if you told me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like, okay, they're going to be some G.I. Joe comics, and they're going to be some pages where there's just 3 colors. It's like light pink, red, a sort of like purple gray for skin, and then like peach pink for all the walls and the hologram. I would say, this sounds like a Valentine's Day G.I. Joe comic, or is this like a My Little Pony or a Gem crossover? Is this like a weird Zorana thing because of her the pink in her costume? And I love all of Jordie Bellaire's coloring decisions. I like all of her coloring on all of her books. Her and Reilly together, it's just so it's so unusual and great. And she's backing up what he does. He's not overdrawing and she's not overcoloring. And her choices are all really striking.
And we get this prologue sequence of setting up Cobra Commander going to the desert to try and find the Energon, and why he's going there with Ripper. And then following that prologue, we're sort of launched into this recap. So it's almost like a pre-credit scene, the credits, and then we're in with the main bit of the story. It's unusual for a comic book to kind of take this sort of treatment.
What did you think of this 2-page recap?
I was a little bit surprised by it. I thought, as I say, it's sort of slightly unusual, but I think in terms of making it really accessible to new readers, or people who are paying less attention to the book than we are, it's a nice little recap of this is what has come before. We've had this big story up to this point. We've had an arc where we've had a slightly smaller story, and this is where we are, and this is how we're joining back in.
I was really surprised when I turned the page. Not disappointed, surprised. And I think you make a good point about people paying not as much attention as we do. Okay, so I would think that if someone is going to get into G.I. Joe, this book has only been running for a year. There are like new printings. There's, issue 1 went to a 3rd printing and there were like 2 different covers. Like, surely they're going to go to their shop or the internet and they're going to get issue 1. Or they're going to get volume 1 with the first 5 issues. Or they're going to, start with the Duke miniseries. Like, there aren't that many comics so far in the G.I. Joe story. If you add on Transformers and Void Rivals, now we're up to like 80 or 90 comics. It is a lot. But I got to this recap and I thought, are there that many people who are starting G.I. Joe here with issue 13. And I can't believe there are many. But if you're Skybound, it's that thing that I was saying at the top, like when they were, years ago when they were doing Walking Dead, you have to like keep getting people excited and making announcements and doing like story arcs and not stunts in a negative way, but stunts. And I guess a 5-part story with a really, sort of eye-popping cover, right? Like Duke and Cobra Commander together on the run in a red Jeep, part 1 of 5, right? Like buy it, dummy. And maybe all these people are coming to their comic book stores and they're like, I keep hearing about Transformers. Like, oh man, issue 25, like Dan Mora, this really like beautiful like cover with Prime's face, and like, oh, well, what's this? G.I. Joe 13. Like, I don't start a series at issue 13. I go back to volume 1, but I guess if whatever it is, 100 readers, 1,000 readers, if this is their first point on G.I. Joe, or maybe they read the Duke miniseries and then they dropped off, or maybe they read the first arc and then they got to Night Force and they're like, nah, I don't know what this is anymore. Like, I'll wait. I'll try it again later.
Or it's like Transformers. I don't want to buy that series then, but Dreadnoks, those are my favorites.
Or like Night Force, like, oh, this artist isn't the same. Like the artist changed. So I guess this is smart, and certainly Skybound Marketing knows more than me. But this did surprise me, and then I get to the next 2 pages, and tell me something, Mark. On page 9, Clutch, when he's calling Duke. And what a cool angle on that bottom panel. We're behind the like glass screen looking back at CoverGirl and Clutch. We're looking through the map and the map is backwards, right? But we're looking up so you can see the fluorescent lights in the ceiling, right? Clutch says, we've been trying to see if we could track it, Energon. And I thought, is this a new idea? I should ask Mark. Have we seen them talking about this or building anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a bit more behind on their back foot when it comes to Energon versus the Cobras. So I think this is a relatively new idea, but they have been able to gather, I guess, some Energon artifacts from their last encounters with Cobra. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of shortening here, that rather than having an issue where they have to explain that they're building a MacGuffin, which means they can track Energon, they're sort of just jumping into it and like, yeah, we've done this thing, we can now track Energon.
I just want to make the comparison here, since we're talking about Dr. Vandermeer and the miniseries, the animated miniseries. In the first animated miniseries, Cobra has the mass device and starts winning, and Vandermeer says to the Joes, we have to build our own. And they just do very quickly. Just, between scenes, like we've got it. This room-sized giant teleportation gun with a crystal on it.
And they are going to the Chihuahuan Desert, which I had to firstly look up to make sure that I was going to pronounce correctly. It's like the dog, the Chihuahua, Chihuahuan.
I'm going to guess the desert came first.
I don't know. Maybe it was named after ravenous packs of chihuahuas, just the scourge of the desert. Be careful sleeping in the desert. The cry of the chihuahua.
Maybe it's a people or a person.
It could. Well,
all right, so we're at this desert.
Yeah, and that's where we find Duke.
Oh wait! Sorry, go back a page.
All right.
In the Duke at the headstone, in the same way that you have tracked when we see Zorana on a motorcycle, I forgot to track when we see Duke at a grave site. Right, we saw it in the movie G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra, and I don't know, once or twice in the Hamaron or something, or previously. Okay, that's all. All right, so the references. All right, so the Chihuahuan Desert, and Mark, I see an orange Jeep. Is this a mask vehicle?
I think there is a very similar looking mask vehicle, but I think it's more a coincidence if it does look like something. Okay. I think it's just a Jeep, just in the same way that Night Force last issue had a Jeep that was probably just a Jeep.
Okay. You have an early preview on screen right now, and the Jeep is sort of
a different color,
gray. gray green, and I'm guessing that someone said no, that can't be gray green because it's not Hound.
Yeah, maybe.
Or this needs to be Duke's personal Jeep, not one he's requisitioning from the pit. So in the printed comic, it is a bright construction orange, and Jordie Bellaire has the orange of it slightly out of alignment. The color goes like a few pixels past it to either show that it's moving or just that her color is daring.
Yeah, and I'll jump into a point here that sort of from that we've not talked about yet. Joshua Williamson and Tom Reilly, what they had to say about creating this. Joshua Williamson said, ever since we started talking about the Energon universe, we had an idea of showing how there were different factions in the G.I. Joe mythology, that it wasn't going to always be G.I. Joe versus Cobra. We wanted the Dreadnoks to be its own challenge, but not just for G.I. Joe, but for Cobra. I'm pumped to be starting this new arc now. It's one that we were all really excited about from the start. Tom and Jordie have been killing it on all of the pages in this storyline. It's non-stop action and adventure with an Energon universe twist. Get ready for the unexpected. And I think, just to call out, I think for me, Tom Reilly and Jordie Bellaire, they're just getting better and better. I think the art on this issue is incredible. And it feels like it's just getting better. Tom Reilly says, I'd say I'm excited to be back on G.I. Joe, but I really never left. As soon as I finished the first arc, I jumped onto this one, working with Josh, Jordie, Russ, and the rest of the Skybound team to bring you the most high-octane story we can. You won't want to miss what we've been cooking up. And yeah, it's sort of an interesting point that we have had this gap from Andrea Milana doing the art, but really, I think Tom just kept on going, and he went from issue 5 to issue 6 to issue 13. And the reason that we're able to see bi-weekly issues is because he's been working on this for a long time and has been building up a bit of a backlog so that we can kind of churn through them and do it at pace. Because Joshua Williamson has said that he's basically planning to, issue 50 and beyond. And I think there's that much story in his old noggin that he wants to get through, that if you're sort of doing it one issue 1 month at a time, that's a slow way of getting that story out. If you can just, fire out an arc at twice the space, then you're sort of further along in your story, and you can get to all of those things that are bubbling away that you really sort of straining at the leash to get to.
Joshua Williamson is currently writing a 4-issue miniseries called DCKO Night Fight. KO like knockout, like the boxing term, Night Fight with a K, like Batman fighting Batman. And Joshua Williamson was recently announced as the writer of Marvel's new monthly Iron Man series, drawn by Carmen Carnero, who did some Captain America, and is still writing Superman, and is writing the main DCKO, or is that Scott Snyder? I don't remember. I think it's Scott Snyder. But every time there's an announcement where Williamson is doing another DC book, I think, I hope there's some DC book that I haven't been tracking that just ended, because I don't want Williamson to get so distracted that he has to skip some G.I. Joe, or that there's a deadline crunch, or I want him to have his full, mental bandwidth to write G.I. Joe. And, here we've got extra issues coming out in a span of 3 months. When I mentioned this orange Jeep and I said, is that a mask vehicle? What I very specifically meant was, would that become a mask vehicle? Of course, I don't think it already is a mask vehicle. I also don't think it's going to become a mask vehicle. And that's the last time I'll mention mask.
There's a Jeep called the Gator Jeep, which is an orange Jeep in mask. Which that's a bit bright, but you can sort of see it. Yeah, there we go.
Tracker's gonna lead the mission. Yeah, there we go.
Vision. Yeah, and I think particularly this arc as well. I think there's probably less complicated storytelling mechanics and shenanigans. It's it's probably a brain dump of here's some crazy wild action. I can actually, probably as a writer, if I've got a vision for what the story is and the action beats, I probably can, get that into script form maybe a bit more quickly than potentially an element where you've got a lot more sort of, trying to juggle a large cast and going from scene to scene and coming up with particularly clever dialogue. If it's a bit more sort of bombastic action, then maybe that's a bit of a quicker write.
I'm going to zoom in just on three small details. If we could go to page 14. So Cobra Commander brings a hiss tank and several stingers out to the desert, and yet he has his men digging with shovels. He doesn't bring... No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
He doesn't bring like a construction vehicle that digs. And then I thought, well, maybe there's a story reason, like it's sort of sensitive and he needs the guys to, remove much smaller quantities, almost like digging by hand. Dig by hand, you fools. It's very small and fragile. So that's just a little thing that occurred to me that is totally fine. Okay, on the bottom of page 14, Russ Wooton, letterer, has put in big capital letters the word boom in the background sky behind the explosion. In the two big panels above it, the explosion is in the sound effect is in front of the explosion, and here the word boom on the bottom of the page is, and what a well drawn and colored explosion that is. The boom is behind it, and it's somewhat transparent, and then Wooton repeats it a second and a third time, smaller and smaller again, and more transparent, so you can see more of the sky through it, and has the second one slightly behind the first one, and the third one slightly behind the second one. And I thought, oh, that's an echo. What a cool visual for that sonic effect. And he didn't invent it, I don't think. I have seen, I think, echoes visually created in comics before. I can't think of any, so not recently. But it's if you go back to the full page view again, I don't know what decision goes into a letterer choosing the lettering treatment for kaboom on the top of the page and boom in the middle of the page, where those are more hand-drawn, and then boom on the bottom looks more like a font, like it's been typed. Now, it's a little imperfect, so it may not be like literally typed. I don't know those decisions, right? Or like the beep on the small panel that's inset on top of the first panel, right, where we're seeing the explosive. I don't understand these decisions, but I like them. And I think the visual for the echo is great.
And on this page there is that little inset with some, dynamite or TNT or Semtex or whatever it is, which is sort of got some tape around it, and it's got that beep sound effect. This is one of those things where you sort of, if you're not paying a lot of attention, you might miss. And when I initially was reading this, I was thinking that this is Cobra coming under attack from the Dreadnoks, that they're firing missiles or some such. But I think what we are meant to read into this, that this is sabotage from Ripper, that he's blown up the hiss tanks himself, that he has attached those explosives. The attack is coming from within, such that it's Ripper and Cobra Commander kind of left together.
This is a good point. I may have read this issue a little too fast and only picked up on your point just now abstractly in the back of my head. So thank you. Man, look at the body language on Cobra Commander in that first panel, how he's reacting, and he's got his sword up and these two really bold silhouettes in the front, but then all the black in the background for the Cobra soldier and the hiss. And then in the second panel, Jordie Bellaire knocks it back as a dark orange. This is also, we've talked sometimes about sort of detail of violence or even gore in comics, and, what's PG, PG-13 or R in comics. And I think in a combat or action comic like G.I. Joe, characters can die and vehicles can get blown up, and vehicle drivers can get blown up right by the vehicles and thrown away from them, somewhat being disintegrated or pushed away with great force. I don't need more detail than this. I don't need, the non-silhouette version where they're covered in scratches and blood and you see some bones sticking out. I find this still really exciting, but tasteful.
But I was going to say, speaking of Cobra Commander's sword, that's a wild panel where he's drawing out his sword, and it's just creating this massive arc. Just very cool and different. But let's move on.
Okay, page 15. Two very cool things are happening here. One that I saw immediately and one that I didn't see until the reread. Particularly in panel 3, Tom Reilly is drawing with ink wash. So all of that cloudy smoke that's above Cobra Commander in that middle, tall, narrow panel, it doesn't fully come across on a screen, but if you've got a copy of your comic, put your face right up to it, like I read my comics, but don't frown. Reilly is not just inking with a brush and black ink. He has watered down the ink so that it's somewhat translucent, and you get this softer effect. That might even be fingerprints all the way on the left and all the way on the right.
Yeah, I can see a fingerprint.
You sometimes see artists adjusting their ink a little bit like that. And then if you could zoom out or go to panel 5, where Cobra Commander is looking at his wrist and he says, "No response, how?" And I didn't see it the first time. That's a red floating
error
syndrome. It's Mark just chuckled, and it's really fun and funny. Cobra Commander pushes the button on his wrist communicator, and there's a glowing red light hologram that's floating a few inches above his wrist, and it's casting a light on his hand and his wrist, and it's slightly on the fritz, right? There's like 3 sort of horizontal like glitch lines through it. It's got a little bit of depth, like Jordie Bellaire has drawn it with like a dark orange edge and then like a yellow edge and then the sort of pink middle and then like a light pink edge. But Tom Reilly has drawn it in perspective. So we are slightly looking down on it and it is slightly twisted away from us. And I thought, what a fun detail. I don't know if that is in Joshua Williamson's script. If so, kudos. If not, like extra kudos to Tom Reilly. And then in terms of writing, I really appreciate on this next page that Ripper takes out this laser hand on Cobra Commander, because as cool as it is, it puts his sort of scale of power so much higher than any human he's going to fight. He's just going to kill Duke and kill Ripper and kill all the Cobras who didn't find the dynamite. He's
disarmed, or more accurately, dishanded.
Yes. He's this manual labor sure is demand. And then there's another, and then I get my like 3rd and 4th favorite sound effects of this issue here: crunch, followed by on the next page, thwack. Right, crunch here. Can you go back to crunch? Crunch is not italicized, right? And it's white. It's acting sort of like the sort of electrical explosion. And then if you can go to the next page, we're now on 17, panel 1, 2, 3, 4, thwack, where Ripper's gigantic. And I sort of keep forgetting this. He's like as big as Mercer. And Cobra Commander is, average human sized. And the kick, like I don't need like exaggerated superhero punches and kicks in G.I. Joe comics. I want them to be pretty much realistic. But I think I buy this one. And
look at this,
Russ Wooton,
this supersonic, kinetic, almost like sonic boom of the kick. It's amazing.
Is that Guile in Street Fighter?
That sort of thing.
Kind of a reference. Guile has met G.I. Joe in an IDW miniseries, and of course those action figures. I'm assuming that this thwack here is Russ Wooton, but it's so clear. Maybe it's Tom Reilly. It's so clear, and then in color, it's this bold orange red. It's capital letters. It's a sans serif font, and it's italicized, right? And both person kicking and being kicked here are kind of italicized in their poses. Oh man, this issue is just full of really fun moments and punctuations. I don't mean grammatical punctuations. I mean like emotional comic book moments.
Yes, it's a great issue. So we're into Duke then sort of coming in to save the day. No one's going to save you, says Ripper, followed by literally Duke doing that.
This is the reckless Duke we've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In previous issues.
Yeah.
Right. He just charges in,
and
headlong. he might get hurt or killed.
Yeah. And you know, if he had just paused a fraction of a second, you know, Ripper could have taken out Cobra Commander, and and you know, it would be a shorter story arc for sure. But
if only Shooter were there and Duke could say, "Shoot Ripper in the shoulder," and then I'll go handcuff myself to Cobra Commander.
But I think somewhere in this issue, sort of Duke explains that I think he sees Cobra Commander as his best way of finding out more about the Transformers and sort of solving that mystery, which is, after all, the thing that he wants to find out. Yeah, later on he says, Cobra Commander says, "You're a fool. You should kill me." And Duke says, "I have too many questions, and I know you're the guy with all the answers. What you know about Energon, the giant robots, everything."
All right, so right now we're looking at page 18. We've seen this before where Williamson and Reilly have a 9-panel grid, and we alternate sort of A, B, between sort of moments or scenes between the sort of odd panels and the even panels. So here the odd panels are these orange knockouts where or color holds, right, where there's no black ink, there's just red ink. Even the word balloons, right? Not today in that first panel.
Oh yeah.
And we're just getting this fight. So it's a moment of the Duke Ripper fight, and then we cut back to Cobra Commander, and then Duke Ripper fight, and then we cut back to Cobra Commander. And the Duke Ripper fight, we get closer and closer, right? The camera is cutting in closer to them on each one, right? So cinematic, I guess. And in terms of story, it's not that important. You know, like, I don't know who's winning. I wasn't reading those 1, 2, 3, 4 panels that carefully. I was just sort of taking it in as like, what a cool drawing. Duke and Ripper punching savagely. The sort of the B of this AB, Cobra Commander trudges away and does sort of get the story a little bit further along. He has to get away. He says the word, he needs escape or a weapon. And then there's this surprise in the final panel and the page turn. Didn't we see it back in, was it issue 1 when we met Risk? And there was like the nightclub, and there was like the pulsing color lights while he's punching up the like bouncer. Mafia guys at the nightclub in like Dubai
with like the disco lights. Yeah, there's
and I don't want to make it seem like I don't want Lee Lowridge to draw G.I. Joe comics. To color G.I. Joe comics. I want G.I. Joe comics to look as good as Lee Lowridge's colors, or like this, right? And this stuff is like, there's sort of like a playful experimentation going on, and Jordie Bellaire does so much subjective color, so much like experimental color that's about how a character or the reader feels. And I feel like a lot of color artists don't go there, and that's okay. Colors can be more objective. And I can see how this color approach might be sort of too much for some G.I. Joe readers. I haven't met any, but I'm also not asking. And then if it's like too much for you, you turn the page. And I don't know that a lot of colorists would handle this top panel on page 20 the way that Bellaire does, where it's like the sun is like right behind Duke. And, you know, like the sort of the speed lines, the effect lines, the like lighting lines. This might have been a suggestion in the margins from Tom Reilly. Carl's Collection says there's a reason Bellaire's coloring work wins awards. Nothing else quite like it in comics right now. So to accentuate the surprise, the reveal that not only did Duke make it out of that fight and he won, not only did he catch up with Cobra Commander and he's like calm, but he's handcuffed himself to Cobra Commander. And I will make a G.I. Joe reference in 2 weeks when we do another episode and we're talking about handcuffs. But it's like the sun is right up in the sky behind Duke, but there's no blue sky. But there's a blue sky down on the bottom, right? And there's been a blue sky in this scene. There's just the whole thing has this like animation glow. It feels like, some anime that I'd be watching in 1990 where like someone's like, surprise, jing, right? Like sword slashing or something. And there are no swords. Well, there was one sword in this scene.
We've got the goodie and the baddie handcuffed together. One of those lovely cinematic tropes. Think, Midnight Run, maybe Rush Hour, I think has got it. Think of any number of hundreds of action films, particularly where you've got the people handcuffed together. Insert your favorites in the comments, but fun one here. The main baddie, the main goodie, handcuffed together. And as we turn the page, we get a rumbling around the hills, which has kind of already been established as that kind of FX language that is being spoken. So we've got this sort of echoing around those sort of desert hills. What could it be? The sense of growing menace. I don't care if more Cobras showing up, Cobra Commander, I'm taking you in. That is not Cobra, Duke. And then we get this great reaction from Ripper as he sort of launches into that laughter. Do you really think I'd come out here alone? And also dramatically as he laughs, we see that missing tooth, which is also quite delightful.
Okay, I was going to say, so two things, because you got the tooth. One, first panel, Duke and Cobra Commander are colored objectively, right? They're sort of colored normally with that blue sky. But now look at the third panel where they're knocked out, Duke particularly in that dull blue, but he does have some edges of highlights, right? But then in the 5th panel, Duke is now sort of back to normal colors with the sun behind him, where there's a little bit of shadows on his front. And I don't know sort of if Jordie Bellaire is like thinking of any one page as needing a certain amount of balance, or like if there's some emotional component to that middle panel where it's like, oh, I want this one Duke to be blue, not because he's blue like he's sad, but or if there's just like a general sense of there needs to be changes. Well, at the beginning he's normal, and then the bottom he's normal, so in the middle he'll be like different. I don't know, and I can't explain it always, but I like it. And then, but also look what she's doing with Ripper's teeth in the last panel and the third to last panel. And it really reads if you're holding a printed comic book, although you can see it in this digital version. Ripper's teeth are kind of glowing. Like they're just catching the sun in a way that sort of the rest of him isn't. Or I don't think there is no light like deep in his mouth or in his throat that's sort of backlighting his teeth. So I can't explain this. I can just see it and know that it feels like something, even if it doesn't mean something. I think in the final panel, it's sort of accentuating his laughter and how crazy he is, right? In the way that like when you close up on the Joker's face, you're aware of like his red lips and that color being striking. And there's this white sort of glow on Ripper's teeth. And I thought, this guy's kind of crazy. or he's just enjoying, he's about to get his revenge and he's enjoying it. And then, can we turn the page? And I have a question for you, Mark. Is this a new logo type for the word Dreadnoks?
I think you might be
like that is
right. I don't know that I recognize that logo.
That's not a font. That's not a style of lettering we've seen for the word Dreadnok or Dreadnoks. It's not from the cover of the Devil's Due, 2006 miniseries, Dreadnoks Declassified. The original Dreadnoks action figures, right, didn't have this treatment. The classified toys haven't had this treatment. And if we go back to, in this very comic book that we're talking about, page 2, right, which is that full page reveal of Cobra Commander sitting on the throne, and Dr. Vandermeer finishes his statement. He says, "I hope that means you will finally put me out of my misery, ... Cobra Commander logo from the cover of the Cobra Commander miniseries." Right? Like this is a thing that that comics have been doing for the last 10 years where, when someone's like, it's like, like Wolverine, you're here. And like, Wolverine is not like a handwritten font. It's the Wolverine logo from the front of Wolverine's comic. And when I saw this, I thought, oh, do I now want a Dreadnoks miniseries? I mean, of course I do.
You do.
But like, oh, am I going to get one? Because they now have made this this treatment that could go on the front top of a comic.
And obviously, looking at both the cover and this splash page here, you sort of brings to mind the likes of sort of Mad Max Fury Road, which Mad Max was very much the visual inspiration for the Dreadnoks when they were originally created by Hasbro and Ron Ruda, and the films had was quite new and in the zeitgeist, and they wanted to include sort of these biker gang sort of as characters and sort of introduced them. But in terms of the vehicles, they didn't really have that initially, and when they first appeared in the comics, they were in the Everglades swamps, and sort of that created a bit of the precedent. You had the swamp skier and the Dreadnoks there, and sort of, so there's a little bit of associating them with a swamp shack, which is how they appeared in the comics originally, and it's how they appeared in Cobra Commander as well. But having them in the desert as we have here is sort of, I guess, leaning a little bit more into their original inspiration. And maybe a little bit more we think of as the desert, sort of as the Dreadnoks in modern language. And we haven't really seen that kind of desert gang view, that Fury Road view of the Dreadnoks quite so much in the comics. We saw the swamp introduction. We saw them as a biker gang on their Harleys in the road, but less so here, with the exception of G.I. Joe European Missions number 11, which was this outback in the outback kind of themed story, and which did sort of lean a little bit more into that view of sort of the Dreadnoks as an Australian biker gang in these oversized vehicles, and they introduced Road Pig actually in this cool kind of spiky vehicle that they called the Razorback in this particular issue. So a rare exception and return back to that kind of that view of the Dreadnoks as a desert Mad Max style biker gang.
What a good mini essay on the Dreadnoks, Mark. Going back to this 2-page spread in G.I. Joe issue 13, I note a couple of things. One, a black woman Dreadnok. And there are so few black women in all of G.I. Joe, right? We have this version of Doc, who's Doc's daughter from a different continuity. We have Shooter, who has a lot more prominence now, but up until very recently had made like 1.5 appearances.
Mistress Armada in the Devil's Due.
Right. But, it's like, you can count the number of black men in the world of G.I. Joe on like 2 hands, which is not a lot, but black women, 1 hand. In her same vehicle is a like a clown.
Yeah, like a clown-looking kind of guy. Yeah,
and I like that. It's fun to see sort of, if you have the word biker gang, you immediately think of certain fashion and color, and it's like leather pants or boots or torn blue jeans, right, or like big biker gloves or whatever, right? They're driving bikes, but they're not wearing helmets. And then I see this and I think it's like juggalos, like what's the Venn diagram? Or, just like crazy makeup. Cause there were certainly, like who's the guy in Fury Road with his face is white and he sprays the Lex Luthor, sprays the silver. Anyway, yeah. Thank you, Nicholas Holt. Okay. Other things I note on this 2-page spread. I see a stun. Mm-hmm. Mark, have we seen stuns in the Energon universe?
No, not up to this point. I don't know if we've even seen stuns really much in the comics at all, even. But it's not necessarily been used very much in the comics, much.
But what this makes me wonder is, did they steal some Mars vehicle that we just haven't seen yet, or did they make this?
Yeah,
which slightly changes my feeling of, the Cobra quote story, the Mars story in the Energon universe. And this is all about changing things up and surprising us, and they even say so in the letters page.
Yeah, I think it's mixing things up, and the stun is, they've got a lot of vehicles that they can choose from in terms of how they present Cobra. and the stun is such an underused vehicle character it's so weird that it's like, okay, we're having this biker gang, rather than just having, completely, anonymous vehicles. What can we stick in there? So we can definitely stick in the Dreadnok cycle, which very much, fits the mold. We can include the Thunder Machine again, because that's the iconic Dreadnok vehicle. The last Thunder Machine did show up in Cobra Commander and was blown up, so it is making a return here. But yeah, why not alongside sort of this truck and the dune buggies and whatever else. There you've got Torch there, by the way. You've got Buzzer there.
Oh, neat. Right. The lady and the clown are driving a red Jeep, which is not going to become a mask vehicle, but I can't not see red Jeeps now. We should start to wrap up, but we still have 5 pages. Such a choice cut of meat, this comic book.
Yeah. Let's plow on through then, Tim. So we've got the introduction of the Dreadnoks. Ripper is left behind with a punch, an extra punch to the face. He says, "We got you now. First, we make Cobra Commander pay for stealing from us, hurting us, and then we'll see what the Joes are willing to pay to get you back, bright boys." But yeah, I'm going to make as much a quick escape as they can. The Dreadnok stop by Ripper. He gets reintroduced to his pals. Does a Predator
he's been
high five with Buzzer.
He has been separated from them for weeks, or months.
Essentially, he was sort of basically kidnapped by Cobra Commander and separated. So this is his in-face reunion with them. But although we assume that he's been in secret contact with them to set up this particular scheme, Torch does say that we got your call, time to burn a snake. Yeah, Zorana, where is he? Tell me you didn't draw us all the way out here for nothing. Don't get your panties in the twist, Zorana. Cobra Commander has a friend, and they're on the run together. A midnight run, or during the day. A daylight run. I love a good chase. Crack open the grape soda babes. Let's run.
So here is a reference. Remind me, grape soda, that's not a reference in the file cards, the Dreadnoks file cards.
I think it's a comic invention.
That is only a Larry Hama Marvel comic invention. It's not in the cartoon. And so Williamson has said, he keeps going back to the file cards for his take on this G.I. Joe. And then visually, there's a lot of inspiration from the recent classified toys. And Williamson has, I don't know how explicit he's been in saying, I don't want to do what Larry Hama has done, but he has gently said that. And this is a very small reference here, but this is absolutely just a reference to a Larry Hama-ism from 80s comics and not some other version of the Dreadnoks. Because, you could just have them drink beer.
True. And I guess partly the reason that they were drinking grape soda was because for a kid's book, they didn't want to show them drinking beer. So
right. This is not quite a kid's book.
So Xandar and Zorana reintroduced here, and this is the design that we had shared with us. Xandar, Zorana, very much looking like both their iconic original 3 3/4 inch designs, and also the classified reinterpretation, which wasn't 2 million miles away from that. And so Reilly, with his invention, with his redesign, has stayed pretty faithful. The biggest change really is probably just the addition of the goggles to Zorana's forehead, putting me in mind a little bit of Tank Girl. Yeah. And also a chance to do a little mini redesign on Torch as well, who's in a kind of studded disco leather vest thing. Is a little bit.
Is that what it is?
Well,
is it disco?
Maybe it's not disco, but it's got a little bit more zhuzh to it, hasn't it? Let's just say.
Shall we talk about these final 2 pages?
Let's go for it. Yeah. So, final pages. We are back at the Cobra lair. Tim, How would you like to describe these?
I'm going to say that Tom Reilly, I think the Destro drawing on the final page, I think Tom Reilly drew Destro by himself and comped him onto his scan of that early page and did not redraw the Cobra Throne. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. That does mean one can't buy these two pages and frame them next to each other, because the second one, I think, would have no chair. But it's anyway. What really struck me about this final two pages is two things. Not the plot. I need to go back a half step. Reilly has made such good use of the reflective quality of Cobra Commander's mask. I forgot to point this out during the fights, that 9-panel grid.
Yeah, I shared it on the screen as a close-up when we were talking about that. There was a little silhouette of the fight in that 9-panel grid. Yeah.
Reflected in his mask. But all throughout this issue, Reilly draws really his inking on Destro's metallic face mask is just so cool. And, great artists don't ink Destro's face as thoughtfully, or they leave it to the color artist to add some flair. But look at the mood on this third to last panel, on this second to last page. What is the 25th page of comics, if you're not counting the recap here, where Destro is mostly in shadow? Okay, so the two things that jump out at me about these final two pages. One, limited palette. Once again, I'm seeing all of Reilly's great art, and I'm certainly enjoying the story and all the dialogue, but I just keep being wonderfully hit in the face by Jordie Bellaire's choices, where, Major Blood on this second to last page is just all knocked out in this one blue, and the backgrounds here are just there's just like three colors on this whole page. But then, since we're referring back to the animated miniseries, what does Destro do at the end of the mass device? And I think also, what does he do at the end of the Weather Dominator? He takes over.
Oh, wow.
He pushes, he definitely does it in the beginning one, but Destro takes over and pushes Cobra Commander aside. And, Larry Hama has played with this a little bit. And I don't know that Williamson is making a reference to the old cartoon, but it does remind me of that. Your final thoughts on these final two pages, Mark?
Yeah, an exciting end to the book. It's interesting that they're sort of using the final couple of pages to play to the bigger story and what's happening with Cobra in it. Because the temptation, would have been just to keep it, to use the final panel as that bit with the Dreadnoks sort of, vowing to take out Cobra Commander. So this extra little bit of flair and story back to the Destro story and his ambitions to take over Cobra Commander is just a little bit of excitement and a nice, clear, visual mirror back to the beginning of the story as well, with Destro in full splash page sat atop the throne. There's a little clue actually that the page could be a reuse, that, as Carl calls it, a Destro is a patch. Look at the top left-hand corner of the panel border. He's got the same sort of slight flaw in the panel line in the top left-hand corner. Anyway, yes, a great issue, really exciting. I think Tom Reilly and Jordie Bellaire as a team are doing amazing work, and as I say, they seem to be getting better and better. This is a beautiful looking book. I'm really enjoying it. I think we're living in a golden age of G.I. Joe comics, and we are so lucky, and I can't wait for the next issue. And fortunately, Tim, I don't have to wait, because we've got one issue of we've got a Real American Hero 322 out next week, and then the week after we're back in the Energon universe with G.I. Joe issue 14. What an absolute treat.
Yeah, I'm done.
So we will be back covering them as they come out. G.I. Joe issue 14 on the 19th of November. We'll do a live stream on the Saturday afterwards, all things being well, where the Dreadnok war continues. Duke and Cobra Commander are on the run, and the only way to survive the Dreadnoks is by trusting each other. And that is the last thing that either of them plans to do. Plus the first appearance of a fan favorite character. Ooh, maybe that's Road Pig. The most action-packed G.I. Joe epic yet continues with 2 issues each month. And if you're paying attention and you want to write it in your diaries, issue 15 is then December the 3rd, issue 16, December the 17th, and issue 17 is January the 10th, I believe. So that is very exciting. What else do I want to mention? You can catch us in the normal places, I guess, is what I need to say next. talkingjoe.co.uk points you to all of those normal places. You can be one of the cool kids. Patreon.com/talkingjoe is the link that takes you to our Patreon. Big thanks to Richard, Sam, Bill, Rob, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, Frank, Mike D, Shane V2. This one has a chainsaw for a hand. Infinite Entertainment, Patrick, Gary V, and Coldroff. They are getting early access to episodes and a warm glow in their hearts for helping us to pay the costs of running this thing. Tim, where can you be found when you're not talking to me about all things G.I. Joe?
youtube.com/AtomicAbe, Hub Comics, and a realamericanbook.com.
Very good. Now, if you've been patiently watching this, you can head on over for the double bill to catch the Full Force Weekly, hosted by friend of the show, Christopher McLeod. And until next time, Tim, please remind us of something super important.
Nobody Beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Laters.